All right, what up, everyone? It's Antonio from Jam Fitness. And if you don't know me already, I am a movement coach, a mindset coach. I have a background in kinesiology, very heavy into soccer. Then I got into jiu-jitsu, and it's been quite a journey being able to see how my body has changed over the years throughout the different programs I put myself into. Now that I find myself in my mid 30s, 37, going on 38, everything matters, from the way that I prepare for my workouts, to the way that I plan out my workouts, to how I manage injuries and recovery, to life stresses. So when I take on clients, my goal isn't to just look at your movements, at your nutrition, but look at you as a whole, because at the end of the day, you only spend a few hours with me, and the rest is you out there by yourself. So the more and more I can educate you on the small wins, the more you're going to actually stack them up. What I want to do in this video is, general introduction to myself, but more specifically on what it is that I can do to support your goals and needs. So first thing is, my athletic background, my training background has really brought me full circle so that I can provide a variety of training protocols. Now, it all starts with understanding movement. At least that is my approach. There's 5 movements that universally agreed upon: push, pull, squat, lift, plank, or anti-rotation, or even rotational movement. You do them on an everyday basis. So it's not like these movements are only in the gym. These movements you do regardless, just to go about your day-to-day activities. Moving based on the fact that you understand the joint, understand the muscles that are being used, understand how those muscles work in fatigue so that you can train them accordingly, and then how to move at particular speeds, whether it be slow movement, explosive movement, or isometric, which is holding movements. Once we get through the movement side of things, then we start looking at chain movements together so that you can actually be resilient in a variety of situations, environments, settings, and so forth. From there, obviously, one big thing to keep in mind when you start anything is, what are your goals, what's your needs, and how can you actually track that? And to do that, you have to start thinking about baselines, start thinking about tracking, reporting. We all have a bunch of apps that we already use. If you're not in Strava, I highly recommend it. Whoop, I'm wearing the Apple Watch, Garmin. We all have different relationships with the scale. The goal is that you get into a positive relationship and have the mindset to tackle this in a positive way, which goes down to the coaching element. With coaching, you realize that you coach yourself day in, day out. The goal is that you're coaching yourself positively. You have a positive self-talk. I coach not just in the physical side, but on the mindset side. And my goal is, when I coach you, I'm utilizing these frameworks that support your journey. The most important part is that you are comfortable coaching yourself, because when you do that, you open yourself up to be coachable. How to have fun throughout the whole process is understanding that it's a journey, and that you're not going to get the immediate gratification, but delayed gratification in itself becomes the winning recipe. Because if you amplify your ability to do the work, to enjoy the process, you will be more comfortable with going through the trials and tribulations of what it means to push yourself, both physically, mentally, and just in general. Now that that's out of the way, what do I do for myself? I have to practice what I preach. You start with the feet. The feet are the first point of contact. You have to understand the foot mechanics, toes, the arch, how you sway from the lateral to the medial side, so that you can start doing lower body movements that require explosiveness to transfer weight from one side to the other or hold weight. Hips are something that we tend to ignore until it's too late. As I move, it's all about integration. How do I rotate, and how do I explode in a way that doesn't create any jarring effect? I have a routine that I start every workout with myself, as well as everyone I train. It gets you grounded and it gets you ready. So I'll show you right now. My go-to movement at the start of a training session is going to be about waking up the feet, because the key thing is juice. Immediately desensitize your feet and your foot mechanics. Don't be shy. Is thinking about, how can you really feel the pressure points of your foot? So I'm going to start off with my left leg forward. I'm going to isolate that left leg. What I'm looking to do is feel the heel and feel my toes dig into the ground. Go into a end range position so that I drive my knee forward, and I'm actually going to drive my weight to the balls of the foot. you're not going to try to get into these positions right away. It's always about understanding, firstly, how much range of motion you have that's pain-free, and then from there, being in control while doing the movement. Balls of the foot, this is engaging my foot, my calves, right, and getting a lot of quads, and then at my hips and core, I'm staying balanced, right? And you can see it's loaded up, all right? Traveling wise, alternate, all right? And now we're gonna start going into the second movement. This is the world's greatest stretch. So I'll start off here. This one, again, you've opened up that range of motion with the knee, ankle, hip. We're gonna plant our opposite hand nice and firmly to the ground. I drive my right hand into the ground. It creates that rotation. My left hand can go up. Good base, right? Open up. If I switch over, you can see differences in range of motion and mobility, right? Nice control. Pelvis, rotation. You also start getting shoulder, all right? Nice control. And then you get that stability, control. From here, I start working on the glutes, glute activation. So starting off in that split squat position, left leg is forward. As opposed to focusing on the balls of the feet, I'm going to focus on the heel. I'm going to sit into the heel. Immediately sitting into the heel gets a little bit more of the hamstrings. And if I turn, right, so if I think about left foot, my right shoulder turns into it, that is now going to engage my glutes, right? So right shoulder turns in and I start feeling my hamstring and my glutes start working. Now, sometimes you can even have a band, and this is why people have the band goes in and outward, right? Engage the glutes. Well, essentially, I'm just doing that. I'm mimicking that movement. You can see it opens up, turn into it, heel heavy, and it's getting the hamstrings and glutes. Final one, going to be the split squat in a very fluid movement. Just drop into it. All right. Letting yourself collapse. Right. And the reason why is that now your joints have a little bit more mobilization. Your muscles have been engaged. Your proprioception now can take on a little bit more of a quicker movement so that you have balance and coordination. So again, being able to go down, up, and just fall into it, right? Increasing that athletic capability and the ability for your body to respond. Your foot being a lot more connected to the ground. Do you feel your joints a lot more connected to each other? Hips leveled, all right? And your ability to start being able to move. So by the end of it, my goal is to be nice and capable of movement, right? And these are the Nike Flex. They're a hybrid between cross trainers and free runs. So they're a little wider, all right? And they're flatter. And I actually take off the sole because I want minimal cushion. So I want to have that contact with the ground. And for these ones, I can do my warm-up in these, and they're pretty effective. I do feel my feet in them. But if you're finding yourself working out in running shoes and you can't really dig into the ground, yeah, barefoot or invest in those cross trainers or a little bit more of a harder sole so that you can actually start figuring out how those toes really play a factor in every movement. For my advanced movement prep is handstands because I'm working from the lower extremities, the core rotation. You can actually do your planks, your protraction, retractions, scapular push-ups, and those are fantastic to get the push-pull mechanics going. I go into my handstand. Now, I've been practicing my handstand for some time now, so little by little, I've been able to get some balance, but it's not perfect, and I'm not a handstand professional, but it is part of my training protocols because firstly, it helps with the understanding of stacking throughout the palm, elbow, shoulder. And if you're able to do handstands, the likelihood is that you're working through shoulder limitations, you're working with shoulder strengthening, and ultimately being able to go in the air and have balance is a lot of pelvic control. Again, this is my movement prep that I've taken as an advanced approach, and I would recommend it to anybody that goes from that lower body extremity movement prep to upper body. So here we go with my stacking. All right, so it's never easy, but what that ends up helping me with is that stacking above the ground. All right, we started off with stacking with the feet, but now this is stacking above. And what ends up happening is Just by default, your body has to do a lot of deep muscle activation. When I have my hands on the ground, all right, I have to control my hips. Yeah, my handstands aren't perfect, but they're actually giving me a great benefit in my hips. So one more time. And even if it's something as simple as that or as bad as that, you'll be surprised. Those hips moving side to side, they get engaged. And then I end up going into my Cossack squats, right? Nice and sideways. And it's immediately allowing me to have more movement, right? Right? That in itself is a lot of work. You have to do a lot of loading to the hips. I'm going to start my workout now, and I'm doing deadlifts. The movement that killed my back is the movement that's going to save my back. My goal is to help as many people as possible not go down the route that I went, because at the end of the day, I'm a fitness professional. I love training. I love being able to design programs. I love working through injuries, but it's taxing. It takes a toll on you physically, mentally, everything. And it's been quite the journey getting back into just being pain free. And I had to adapt. I had to adapt around the fact that I'm no longer pushing that weight, and that for me to get back to that stage, it's going to require patience and real progressions. Like, it's just part of it. So in any case, today doing the deadlifts, and I'm going to walk you through how I prepare for my deadlifts, which is a lot of isometric. So I don't necessarily have to lift heavy. It's just isometric work, and then I slowly progress from there. All right, so we're here. My go-to movements for the deadlift is off the pins. The point in which I'm at right now is my SI joint has discomfort, but there's enough of a foundation to start working with it. And what I find now is it's actually my lumbar area. So to give you the SI joint right here, right, a little bit of tightness, but it's manageable. But because of the imbalance that's happened over the years, what I find now is actually my middle back. Being able to take on weight and go into those end ranges with my my lower back, that's hard. So, when we do a deadlift, this is pretty much static. We want this nice neutral back spine. Most of that weight is through the hamstrings and glutes, right? And we sit into the hips. But this right here is static. However, it's also something that you want to have proprioception sensation around, that you end up working it as a holding muscle, but there is a minor extension that happens every deadlift. It's not going to be, you can't avoid it. So what I know now is, yes, warm up my hamstrings, glutes, feet, hips, right? My SI joints feeling decent, but now it's my middle back. And this is where my pelvic tilts are key, right here, right? Moving that lower back, mobilization, right? I end up taking a wide stance, right? Because this allows my lower back to be isolated. Arms weight, using as counterweight, right here. A lot of work. Whoa. And the thing is, you don't want to finish off your deadlift like this, but you want to be able to understand how your hips and your lower back come into play. All right, so I squeeze my glutes. There's that little bit of that crunch, and you can see there is a slight curvature, right? I'm not compressing it, but I'm keeping it all contracted. Abdominals and glutes, all right? Kicking back out, right? So my pelvic tilts isn't just my hips, it's my lower back, all right? Nice and controlled. So I end up doing pelvic tilts because there's a work that no one sees, and you might look embarrassing, but they're going to be helpful. And trust me, there's a workout in myself. Ooh. See? Whoa. Okay, so now that that's covered, here we go. And this is that lift, right? Again, when we drive, it's going to be glutes, but because I'm retraining my movement pattern, one thing I have to work on is getting my hamstrings, glutes connected, but then also my lower back, I have to strengthen it. So this is like back extensions. So from this position, right, nice and controlled, I'm lifting up, pelvic tilts. Even if it's in range and looks ugly, I don't care. I need to do this. All right. Again, I don't want to drive from this position, but I need to integrate it, right? Because ultimately the drive is here, all right? This stays neutral, and I drive through my hamstrings and glutes. But to be able to achieve the integrated deadlift, I need this to be engaged as an isometric position so that I can feel confident that when I end up finishing the drive, my lower back, which is currently my weak point, doesn't actually take the load, right? So in here, all right? If I go into this position, you can see, extend the knees, increase that lower back. These are good mornings. It's going right in already. It's going right in. Oh, goodness. That's a struggle. One more time, more range of motion. This time, full good morning off the ground. Here we go. Get really jacked up. Not jacked up, but engaged. The hold. Oh. Woo. Now this is where a lot of times my stretching mobility routine happened because of my lower back. And being able to get to this has not been easy. I wasn't born flexible or mobile. It was just a necessity to work through my injuries because I got a lot of injuries given that I never had the proper mechanics to begin with. And then number two, you're seeing me at my lightest right now, but I was up at, just under 200 pounds doing jiu-jitsu, soccer, a lot of force output. And, I just was able to rely on just brute strength. But with injuries, I had to figure out what the what the proper mechanics were and how to actually protect my body. And what I started learning is that my central nervous system was tight. So me being able to get to this position wasn't a matter of my hamstrings being tight. It was actually my CNS, my central nervous system, being tight. And I had to just work through the stretch to the point where if I do this, straight leg, head to toe. Well, that worked out well. So now I am ready to get into my deadlift. Tell me about it. It's quite the process, I know. All right, so can we try? Give it a shot. The initial lift off the floor. Sink my hips back. All right, drive. Little balls of the foot. Past the knees. All right, at this point, my hips are locked. And that lower back is what I'm mobilizing so that I get comfortable throughout the final phases of the drive. And that is a deadlift with back pain. What we're going to do here to finish things off is a clean. Keep in mind, I haven't been doing cleans, but I'm going to do it because, again, the progressions, we're starting off with movement prep, isometrics, engagement, integration, controlled weight, understanding that relationship between the pelvis and that lower back. And now what we're going to do is take all that and adds to speed. All right, so the clean comes up, a thrust, catch. Here we go. Nice and controlled so that you find yourself in a balanced position. All right, as you come up, being able to hold that in itself is a test. All right, that's that. What you got a chance to see there is about 20 minutes of focused work from movement prep to integrations to finishing off with deadlifts and some explosive deadlifts. So hope that was helpful. And if you yourself are in the process of starting a training program, you want to push the limits, you want to do so in a safe way, you want to think of it from a holistic point of view where you are going to achieve strength, endurance, mobility, good stretch, just overall resilience of the body. Or if you find yourself in a plateau and you're not sure how to make that jump, that's another thing. Again, being able to make the training program for you. And last but not least, if you find yourself with a nagging pain that you've been cleared with from a medical professional standpoint, and it just stops you from training as you want to train, then I would love to support you and aid in your journey. Cheers.